Hi, everybody, and welcome to Grow to Scale Your Business. My name is Marina, and today we have Judy E. Wilkes with us. Judy is an experienced executive with over 27 years of expertise in project management, organizational structure, and team leadership. And hold it because you need to know where she was and which industry she worked with. It's insane. So Judy has worked with various industries, including aerospace, aerospace, engineering, and technology, where she has led significant projects such as a development of Canadarm or Canadarm to it's difficult to pronounce for International Space Station. With a solid background in improving operational efficiency, Judy has helped companies save millions and boost performance across global teams. As the founder and CEO of Steadfast Ventures, she's now specializing in providing operational due diligence for growth-oriented middle market businesses. Because, oh boy, these businesses need it. Welcome, Judy. Thank you for joining us today.
Well, thank you very much, Marina, for the invitation to join your podcast. I'm grateful to be here today, and I'm looking forward to this conversation. And hopefully, we're able to enlighten your listeners about our trials and tribulations for running a business.
So, full disclosure, first of all, Judy and I have been talking to each other, and every meeting turns into 3 or 4 hours of exchange of experiences, banters, funny stories about past customers, and so on. So, this is going to be a series of a series of podcast episodes about different topics because we're having so much fun together. So we had to do it multiple times. We couldn't stop at one.
No, we couldn't stop at one. And just for our listeners' sanity, we will try to keep it under control and we will not go for 4 hours. But the podcast, as Marina shared, will be probably a combination or a compilation of 4 hours of chitter chatter and revelations and experiences.
Absolutely. So today, first of all, Judy, if you can share a little bit. Yes, I gave the pitch of who you are and your experience and so on, but we started talking about a different topic. We were talking from a position of M&A, and we were talking about the challenges that businesses are experiencing operationally and before they sell it and after they sell it and the buyer acquire the business, what challenges they're experiencing on that road. So tell us a little bit of, in depth what you do for those businesses, and then we'll jump into our the topic of today, which is fix it before they price it.
Well, just to give you a high level, I will say I am your PCP for your business operations. And by PCP, if no one knows that acronym, I am your primary care physician for your business operations. My mission is to diagnose your overall business operations, see where you are today, review your documentation from production to personnel, see where things can be cleared up, cleaned up, revised, materialized, because there's some companies who don't have any documentation what they do, and make sure it is efficient and it grows with you. It basically can what you're doing, what you say, the essence of your business work for you today and in the future, pardon me, as you grow. And that is what my primary focus happens to be. And that's where we discover a lot of the good, the bad, and definitely the ugly.
Absolutely. So I was talking yesterday with a business broker, and he right now talks to a couple of businesses, and their main problem is one, the business, the owner is the business, right? Two, they're in the mindset of we've been doing it for 100 years, we're not looking to change. And three, if they want it, they will buy it. I'm not going to change anything to sell it. And on the other side, he has the buyers that want to buy those businesses, but they're saying, we can't. There's nothing to buy. Like we're the business has millions in revenue, but the owner is the business. So if I'm buying it, I have to work in the business. There's no SOPs, there's no systems, there's no technology, there's nothing. I'm taking a huge risk by buying this business, so it's not worth the money that they're asking for it. So,
Exactly. And right there, that's a perfect example of a buyer who looks at a business as a project or another job. So the mission for all business owners is to set up your business as if you're ready to sell it tomorrow. Not saying you're going to sell it tomorrow, but you want to set it up as you're selling it tomorrow. When a business is owner centric, meaning the owner knows everything and they have a staff, and the staff have to go to them for everything, they are the bottleneck. And the buyers will look at it as we have a problem. I have to go through this business owner. That means the business owner may have to stay on when I buy the business. The original business owner, sorry, will have to stay on when I buy the business in order to get the download of that knowledge. They don't want that. They want to grab, integrate into their business and go. How do you want to perform? And that's where your colleague mentioned that, and that's exactly what I'm looking at. How do we get from owner-centric control to overall operational control?
so let's actually start from this point. If a
Okay.
business owner vanishes for 30 days, what are the red flags that you see in a business that says, if you do that, the business is not going to survive, or the business is not going to be operational without you being there? There are like hints of it when
Well,
you are entering a business to analyze it and systemize it. What are those red flags?
well, the number one is I would call it decision paralysis. If the buyer goes and speaks to a couple other of the uh, business employees about what they do and how they handle certain things and say, oh, so who does the final decision of sign-offs on this particular task or this particular item? And they go, well, everything has to go through the business owner. First red flag. Or they say, oh, I don't know, I just push it up the chain. Second red flag. They will see it. There is a level of accountability that you will see in the interactions of the business owner and his staff. And if there's no sign of accountability or authority of taking on whatever they need to do without the business owner being there, it's a sinking ship. Analysis paralysis, decision paralysis. That's exactly where we are.
And how do you spot those, a team that is empowered, those people that are empowered to make decisions versus ones that are completely dependent on the owner? What are the signs of empowered employee?
The empowered employee will be able to provide insight immediately on a particular issue or a topic and able to jump on it immediately. That is where you get that accountability. That's where they feel that they have something to contribute, and there is that trust within that employee to make that decision. Now, if there is a tier system where decisions that are more complex needs a sign off from a senior partner or a senior manager, that's different, but at least they know there's a system. Now, one that does not have a system where they go, oh, I don't know, or I got to ask the owner, or, well, we got to go through this kind of process and these types of questions and then get it signed off by the owner. There is no control. There is no independence per se for the employee to say, I can handle this and I am trusted to make a wise decision on the betterment of the business. And that's usually are the signals of the differences. Everyone is interacting with each other. Everyone knows how to work with each other. Everyone can say, okay, let's work together to get ABC thing done. And we all sign off of it and move forward. But when there's a bottleneck and everything has to go through the owner, that's where we have the problem.
It's such a good point. I'm actually working right now with a customer and I'm doing some COO work for them, so operational. And we revamped their entire business by integrating the technology, integrating AI, and automating everything that they're doing, creating the SOPs and so on. Now, she has a couple of VAs that are not performing, so we're doing the next level in the business, which is eliminating, or sorry, eliminating is not a good word for this, firing, because we don't want to eliminate them, firing the two VAs that are not performing, and we're hiring a new one. So she asked me to do the interviews and revamping and vetting the VAs in order to identify who would be the perfect fit with the skill set to operate her business in the new environment, because she's not very techy, even though the system is very simple to operate. But she wants that her right hand man or woman would be somebody who is techy and who has critical thinking, so they can take off the load off her because she has a lot going on her plate. So I interviewed 3 people this week for her, and I had phenomenal 3 examples of complete opposites of each other, and all 3 did not were not a good fit, but for different reasons. One, and when I interview, I don't ask the questions that usually interviewers ask. Tell me about yourself, and then I dig deep into their resume items. Like, I don't care about your resume. I want to know you're able to perform even if I
Mm-hmm.
teach you whatever you need to be taught. Because when I was building everything for her business, it all include the systems and SOPs, I already created the training materials. I already created the training videos. As long as you can watch them, understand them, and implement them, I don't care what you knew in the past. I need to know you're capable of learning. So I gave them situational questions instead of very like resume based. And it was so interesting to see the difference. So one of them was answering the questions. Not She wasn't answering the question. She was dancing around the question,
Oh boy. Oh
and she
boy.
was like doing everything she could not to answer it. And even though I was positioning it in a different way, the same question, I was asking it a third time in a different way, she would always dance around the question. Well, that doesn't work for me, because
No.
if you can't answer hypothetical question with the knowledge I already gave you, which you should have enough knowledge to answer it, then it means you're gonna bother the owner every single time you have a question.
Mm-hmm.
She will be the bottleneck.
Yep.
So that's a no. Then the second one was somewhere in the middle. So some of them, she didn't know the answers, but she didn't even make hypothetical assumptions of what could be possible if she was in that situation, right? So I she would always assume the same thing, and she would
Mm-hmm.
refer back. I assume I have a backup. I assume I have a backup. Okay, but let's say you don't have a backup. What else could
Mm-hmm.
you do? Pick up the phone, call the staff members. Like you have other options, but if you jump to the same assumption for the entire interview, then you're not flexible enough in your thinking. You're very like this,
Regimented.
so
Mm-hmm.
very regimented. Okay, that's enough, not a good fit. And the third one, he was very strategic thinker. Like he was really good at answering these questions, but he failed for another reason. It was like, don't show up for an interview in a t-shirt in a coffee shop with a
Oh.
coffee in your hand. That was that was a no. But the answers to the questions were really good. So if he was in a showing up the right way to the interview, he would have been a perfect fit for this position. Why? Because he's capable of being analytical, understanding the question, understanding the problem, and finding creative solutions
Mm-hmm.
to work around it without bothering the owner. And
Yep.
one of my criterias was I have I need you to be able to create solutions for problems and then document them as the firefighting documentation for the
Mm-hmm.
next time, for the next employee, for the next worker.
Mm-hmm.
So when you were talking about how you identify those key people, he was like the star pupil for analytical thinking and being independent.
Well, that's when I what is the term I'm trying to remember? When you have the superstar and then you have the system. And the one thing we have to be careful in those types of situations that you get a superstar, and those superstars are the ones that knows everything and they don't document it. And
Yeah.
they are very attracted to competition and others where they will get snatched up and they can easily leave. Those are the situations that businesses need to remember when they want to hire, and which I've seen in the corporate side. They love to hire those superstars. These superstars don't write anything down. And when they get fed up or situations come along where there's threats of layoffs and threats of lack of mobility and other, whatever the word I'm thinking of, other friction moments, they're the first ones to leave.
Yeah.
And that is very profound, especially in the M&A world and the sale of a business. Once the word is out, I don't have to say the word, the rumor, the key word is rumor. The
Yeah.
rumor of something is being sold or they're going to be acquired. They're the first ones on the computer. Resume has been updated. They've already done their search. Ping, pang,
Yeah.
boom, pum. They're gone. I'm speaking from experience.
I experienced that as well. Yeah.
Oh, I'm first to admit it. Communication is so important in a situation of this nature. And having a proper communication plan for such a possibility that comes outside of the executive board, when that conversation comes out, it's imperative that the ownership of the business is transparent and sit their staff down to calm those fears and the exit plans of your staff first, because the buyers are not only buying a business, they're buying the technology and the knowledge that's associated with that business. And if you don't have a proper communication plan, proper documentation plan, and transition plan to help your staff understand how it's going to happen, who may or may not be affected, and how to help your employees shift in the new culture that's gonna occur, they're out. And the value of that business drops.
Yep.
Because once those key people are gone and the buyers find out, the deal may they may lowball you or cancel the deal. Which one you want?
Change management in an organization that is in the process of an M&A is paramount. It's so important because without it, without the change management gently and very structurally articulating the process of how it's going to happen, what are going to be the changes, and who is going to be in charge of those changes. Because a lot of the unknown causes people
Yes.
to leave because
Yes.
they don't know what they don't know. And humans, including animals, don't like the unknown. It's like if we use my cat as an example, I bought like I have one of these here, like that hand that you use to scratch your back,
Mm-hmm.
the telescopic one. So I bought it specifically for the cat and the dog. I don't want to bend over every time I want to pet them, so I just use that. And my cat got scared for the first time when he saw it because he didn't know what it was, so he ran away. And I had to gently show him what it's used for, and then he likes it. And I don't want to compare humans to animals, but hey, we are animals, and we don't know what we don't know, so we get scared and we escape. We
Exactly.
avoid the pain, the
Exactly.
possibility of pain. It's not even the pain; it's just the thought of it.
It's just the thought of it, the uncomfortableness, the
Yeah.
the 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 unknown of it, the mystery of it, that if we can't solve it within 3 nanoseconds, forget it.
Yep.
Don't have nothing to do with it. Don't have nothing to do with it.
Now I'm gonna ask you another question, and it has the term that I love using because it's the reality of most of the businesses that I work with. A lot of businesses think they have systems, but it's really just tools duct taped together. And that's the phrase I like, duct taped, because you use spreadsheets and prayer to hold the business together in best case scenario, or sticky notes stuck all over your desktop or your table. So how does that sorry, how does that show up during the due diligence, the duct taping of the systems? Like,
Let's put it this way. When it comes to that due diligence part, and if a buyer says, I would like to get a report about whatever piece of data, and if you could pull that data on this for me just to look at it, and it takes the team more than 3 days and 5 different systems to pull this sucker together, we got a problem. We have a problem. How can you reconcile data, information, documentation, whatnot, into a simple document that has to take 3 days? That means they're taking from one to the other and putting it together. You got all different types of formats, and then somebody's got to format everything to make it look uniform. And all of a sudden, it's taking 3 to 5 times the length of time to get something done. I can give you an example, and I'm probably going to jump ahead in our conversation here, but I'll give you this example. I had a customer who was a manufacturer, a small steel manufacturing company in Western Massachusetts here. And this particular customer was using an Excel spreadsheet to manage all of his accounting. I just heard people fall out their chairs, boom, bam, bam, all over the place. Did not use QuickBooks, did not use any other software, didn't trust it. he wanted to use Excel and was determined with Access application. Determined. Their finance people, which used to have 4 individuals, now was down to 2 individuals. These 2 ladies will take approximately 3 days for the 2 of them, 3 days to get this work done. And this was compiling the accounts receivables, payables, and payroll. They were so frustrated, it took them 3 days. They had to take from Excel sheet. They had to take from another monitoring sheet application they're using. They had a homegrown application doing. They grab all those numbers and make sure that everything was in. Perfect example of owner-centric. They always had to go back to the owner to make sure all the information in terms of what the dollar amounts was received was inputted. And he didn't have any other dealings or any other conversations or any other payments from outside was received. Okay? I'm giving you all the nightmare. I found out in the due diligence, there were 3 big errors. One, there was billings that was almost 200 days overdue. That was out, close to $1 million. 2, there were some numbers placed in the wrong categories or inverted numbers that did not match up. And 3, there were some projects that were done and never built. Scary, scary, and more scary. So I had to work with a colleague of mine who is a fractional CIO, and we created a system whereby we left the owner with the Excel sheet, but we embodied it in its own homegrown application for the 2 ladies in the finance to manage all the AP, ARs, and personnel, payroll, and everything else under one umbrella so that they can produce a report that did not take them 3 days and 5 different systems to pull the information. So think about it. 3 days, 2 individuals, 8 hours a day, reduced to a half a day, 2 individuals, grand total 4 hours. For the both of them, 2 hours each, done. How much money was that saved? You do the math.
Now they can spend the time on better things and higher quality.
Now they can spend time on other things.
Higher value tasks.
Exactly. And the worst thing about it is they hated the part when they had to do their accounts receivables and account payables on a monthly basis because they were prepared for 4 days. They were literally in the office, which I found out. They would literally get in the office at 5 and 6 o'clock in the morning so they can think without anybody disturbing them by the time everyone starts showing up at 8, 9 o'clock. So they needed 3 hours of peace in order to get the assimilation of all the information so they can start doing what they had to do. That's not good for morale. That's not good for home work balance. That's not good. But when I did help them with that, that all disappeared. So to get back to your question, the duct taping, that was duct tape. That was piece of the piece of the piece of the piece and a piece and a piece. That's your duct tape. We do not need that. That is too much pain. Too much pain that one should go through. And it slows down productivity. It slows down your work. It slows down the work of others. And it can affect morale. And guess what happens? If you got a high achieving individual, they're going to look at it and say, I do not have to tolerate this. Unbeknownst to you, they're in stealth mode. The resumes are out. They've done their interviews in stealth mode. And before you know it, there is your 2-week notice or 2-day notice, depending how bad they want to go. And they're gone. And
And
guess what? And it's
imagine
not
how
documented.
good it's not, it's what?
And it's not documented how they
Yep.
do it.
Yep. But imagine how good these two people were to manage this entire thing in a spreadsheet. They were magicians.
Yep.
No matter how long it took them, just the ability and the capability of executing it on
Yep.
a monthly basis, they're magicians.
That
So
is
I would definitely
correct.
hire them.
They were Excel pros. That's all I will tell you. They were pros in getting it done. But
Yeah.
they were when everything got done, let's just say they were so happy. They were so happy that they didn't have to pull their hair out getting all that information in. They knew
And no,
exactly what was missing, who was not billed, when it wasn't done. It was tied into their project management application that I helped them establish. They knew where every project was, when every task had to be done, when it got done, when it got completed, when it got shipped. So they know as soon as it got shipped, bill, it was automatic. They
yeah.
didn't have it before. So that would cause a buyer to go, no, that's a project. That's a project. I don't want to deal with a project.
Wow. I was in pain just listening to this. Okay,
Sorry,
so
sorry to those folks. I apologize to those folks
yes.
who hurt themselves, hit their head on their tables. I'm so sorry.
I was itching, like you're saying, and my skin is itching because I envision it in my mind, their work process, and I was like, oh my God, I would not be want to be in their shoes, but that would be a perfect candidates for yourself and for myself. We love these kinds of companies.
Yeah.
That's where we shine. We come in, you come in, and you start analyzing, and your skin itches because you see the duct taping and you see the horror stories, and they're like, but I can fix it. I
Mm-hmm.
can make your pain disappear if you just say yes. Your pain will disappear, your stress will disappear. Nobody has to come at 5 a.m. You don't have to hire new people because everybody else quit because they hate their life. Coming into work 5 a.m. Oh my God, like why would you come at 5 a.m.? So yeah, it's you are the woman to get in there and fix it. Okay. We talked about a lot of things so far. What makes buyers of businesses nervous during the due diligence process? What makes them say, maybe I need to rethink that purchase? Or you need to fix that before I buy?
The question, when they ask for a certain document or they ask about a certain task, and the owner basically says, I'll give you a perfect example. I had a lunch with a colleague a number of months ago. And during our lunch, there was about 4 or 5 of us. We were sharing horror stories. And this
Our favorite kind.
particular, and this particular colleague mentioned he had almost mentioned they almost lost the deal because the buyer had asked the owner of the business how did they manage the vacations for payroll system. And the buyer, the owner said, I have no idea. Strike one. The next question was, well, has everyone taken their vacations? Do you know if everyone's taken their vacations? The owner says, oh, I don't know. Instead of, I believe they have, but instead of answering, I believe they have, but I want to go check or bring in their HR representative to give that report, he says, I don't know. Strike two. Well, there were a few other things that happened. And the owner went back to the team with those particular questions. And when they did their own last minute deep dive, they realized there were, let's just say, hundreds of hours that was not taken for vacation. And the valuation of that business dropped like a rock because the buyer was not going to pay for those vacations. And the owner was writing checks. We're talking big checks for all those vacations. So, to answer your question, if there is no clarity or the owner does not have clarity as to where each department, each segment lies to date, that gives buyers unease of moving forward. And especially if it's the large, important things, they will go through their financial records and they will ask them certain questions. And if their CFO is not on site to answer those questions, or CPA, if they're smaller, but their financial expert is not on site to answer those questions, or there's any hesitation on answering those questions, that's when the flags start going up. That's when they start wondering, what else are you hiding? There are some things that are obvious, like the type of systems they're using. If it's a little outdated, if it does not have the capability to handle the volume of traffic or the volume of data that the that the buyer's system can, they could let that kind of go because they could say, well, we could integrate what you're doing into ours. There's certain things that are small, but if it's a large, important thing, purchasing process, customer service process, sales process that is pertinent to the survival, the functionality, the success of the business, and the owner does not know, flag. That's where it comes up.
I'm thinking of adding one more to that. When it's okay if the owner doesn't know everything in the business, let's assume, because they're no longer an active participant, which is a good thing. You don't have to be an active participant. That's what we want for the business owners. But if the people who are running the departments or the employees that are running the business, the entire process and systems and everything that is happening in the business lives in their head. And if they leave, that knowledge leaves with them.
Yes.
If they have no documentation of what's happening in the business, huge red flag, huge.
Exactly. And that is one of my reasons why I believe it's so important as a business grows. It will start with one person, the solopreneur. They bring in somebody else, maybe one or two other people. You keep documenting because as time grows, don't forget, you're bringing in talent from outside. They may incite other ideas and suggestions. And before you know it, oh, didn't think about that. Wow, that's a fantastic idea. Or you didn't have time to implement it, but somebody else is willing to do it. Document it. Document it. As time progresses, yes, you modify it, you upgrade it, because remember, what you do with 3 or 5 people does not work with 30, 50, or 500 people. It's a total different process, but build it in such a way that you can grow on it. It could grow with the business. If it's only fixed at this date and time, it will not survive. Now, a lot of people will say, oh, we don't have time to do all this documenting, or I could use AI and do it. True. You can use AI and do it, but make sure You get everybody's brain in that system, and not everyone knows how to do it. That's why I personally, I'm one of those individuals who sit down with the key personnel to ensure I understand what the vision and the mission is for that business. Where did it start from? Where you want to go? What happened? You're here now. You're trying to get here. What happened over here? Where did you go off track to get you back on track to get to this point? And that's how I operate. And I will sit with everybody to make sure the message is uniform all the way down. Everyone understands what goes on. That's just a shameless plug. One thing that I do. But this is why it's so important to make sure everything gets documented so that if something happens to the key individuals, God forbid, they are unable, they get sick or pass away, the business could continue on. You have a succession plan. How does it keep going on? Et cetera, et cetera. We could go on for hours.
Oh my God, this is so much to say about what you just said. Should I or shouldn't I? So you were talking about, let me break it down at least to two parts, if not three. So you were talking about what you do, which is this is where you are today. This is where you actually want to be. What happened here that didn't make it happen going in this direction? I'm gonna add a layer to it. My favorite ones on top of yours is I'm here, I'm happy where I'm here, but now I have a new goal. I have a new dream and I don't know how to get there. It's a
That's it.
big dream and
Mm-hmm.
I have not I don't have enough skills or knowledge to execute whatever needs to be executed to get there. I love
Mm-hmm.
it because I come in, I understand where are you today, where you want to go, and let's reverse engineer all the milestones that you need to hit in order to get to your destination. It's not
Exactly.
always shit, pardon my French, it's not always shit show on this level. Sometimes you're in a fantastic place. You just need help to the next level.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's too many times folks are in a tunnel. They got tunnel vision and they're not raising their head up higher to see the horizon. When you see the horizon or sit at a higher perch, you get to see things differently. So I agree. You're here, but you got that vision. It came to you late after you developed it. You want to get there. And exactly right, Marina. You got to reverse engineer it, how the different milestones to achieve it. The next question to ask is, are you willing to do what is necessary to get there?
Yeah.
There's no shortcuts. There are no shortcuts.
There are no shortcuts. And when you try to take the shortcuts, you're either going to fail or you're going to create such a big mess that it's going to affect the perfect scenario you have right now in your current business
That's
just
right.
because you were not willing to take the precautions to protect your current business from the fallout of the failure of the growth. And you failed
Exactly.
or the scaling. You failed not because you're not ready for it, but because you didn't listen to the advice of somebody who knows what needs to be done in order to execute it. And I always use this example for pretty much every single podcast that I do because this company had so many problems, like so many great stories as lessons learned from a perspective of lessons learned that I tell it over and over in different variations. So I want to grow my business into US. Okay, where are you on your journey? I don't care about the details. I just want to start selling. Well, whoa, horsey, that's not the way it works. You need to, okay, I understand you have a big vision. Awesome. You have a business that operates. Awesome. Let us break down what needs to be done in order to
Hmm.
execute it. And it's
Hmm.
not the first sale. It's not how do I get my first customer in a new country. No, it's how do you, A, asset protection? Do you need a corporate structure? Do you need tax strategy? Where is the bank account? If you open a corporate structure in the new country, what is the relationship between the two entities in the new country and the old country? How do you protect the interests of all the partners, because you're not the only owner, you have business partners,
Yep.
and so on and so on. Like, how is the money going to flow?
Yep.
Is it a 50-50? Is it one company provides the service to the other company, so it charges fees of that? Like, so many things. And then we have legal legal
Yep.
contracts.
Yep.
You need a lawyer. Your you don't even have contracts, but if you had contracts, they're not in English. So that
Yep.
doesn't work.
Hmm.
And if you want to work with Fortune 500s, they're not going to be satisfied with a one pager or, God forbid, a two sentence in the quote in the invoice. Like, nobody's going to take you seriously in US if
Hmm.
you do that. So you need serious contracts that protect all parties
Parties. Yep.
and cover. Now, you hire a legal team. Well, you're trying to hire somebody. I vetted the lawyer for you that has the experience. You chose not to go with that lawyer, and you chose a discount lawyer that wrote,
Mm.
I don't want to say what, horrible contracts that I had to revamp later because even the name of the company was misspelled.
Oh
Like,
dear.
like, so you're cutting corners, and by the way, that company is nowhere in my resume because I love the stories. I either can share the name or I can share the stories. And I choose to share the stories because it's such, and not because I'm laughing at them. No, it's because it's such a beautiful example of lessons that other businesses can take
Yep.
and envision themselves in those stories. See, oh, I'm doing that as well. Maybe I shouldn't do that because these are the consequences of what will happen if I followed their example.
And we can even use your that example, your story there. We don't even have to work about a company coming into the US, for example. We could do companies who want to open up offices in different states.
Yes,
And
which
they're
is
different.
a new
And that's
country.
another, that is another complex situation. One part is easier because you're in the same country, but in different states, each state has its own laws. Each state
Yes.
has its own different taxation rules. Each state has its own requirements. So now you got to make sure you have the right people in the right place, the right attorneys who's familiar with the tax laws, the HR laws, and other laws, environmental laws, depending where you want to place what type of business you're doing, that you need to have it. Again, this is where the documentation, when I refer to grows with you, comes important. You start in one place, as you move somewhere else. Okay, well, if you're in, for example, I'm just going to throw a state out there. If your business is in Massachusetts and you want to open up a business in New York. Well, my friend, you go in New York State, the laws in New York and Massachusetts are two different set of laws, especially with taxations involved.
Yeah.
That's a whole different bottle of wax, and we don't have time for that. But you have to have it all set up. You have to have somebody boots on the ground in the location who knows inside out how it works. And that's where you develop, okay, this is the framework, but in this state this is what we need to do, in that state this is what we need to do. But any other, however you want to do for any references that is the state of incorporation. Sometimes the state of incorporation is the most important, that the laws of that state of incorporation is the one that stands out for every company, depending on if there's any mediation that needs to be done. That's where it has to fall in. That's, I'm not a lawyer, so I can't say 100%, but that's where you get your legal representation to finalize how certain things are handled in which state, which country, etc. And
Yes.
these is why it's important to have these documentations written up. The middle market businesses, the smaller businesses that I'm helping out, a lot of them don't have it. A lot of them don't have it. So when we go to move to the next level where you want your next generation to inherit it, this is where the infighting begins. Oh, dad promised me this, or mom promised me that, or there's partnerships that were not clearly defined of how things are going to be divided out if someone leaves. This is where we have the problem.
Oh
Like I
boy.
said, we could keep going, but I'm going to stop. Well, I can't.
Well, you and I are so used to talking 3, 4 hours at a time about a topic, and we cannot do this to the audience. So we gotta like stop. But it is going to be episodes, so we will talk about different things across the different episodes to cover as much as possible without tiring everybody out. So, and by the way, I there was another podcaster, and he interviewed a, I don't know if you're familiar with him, Joe Dispenza. He is about meditation and manifestation and like, yeah, manifestation, let's call it that way.
Okay.
And he had one episode, it was over 4 hours straight. It was not cut. You can see there was no cutting there. It was just 4 hours of interview straight. And I was like, I gotta do this one time. It's like I don't have enough, like I can't tire my audience, but it's something to strive for if I find the right topic.
Well,
um
this is one of those that we could probably cover 4 hours plus, just to give everyone enough information of what they need to do and how to prepare themselves. Because, truth be told, I am taking some of the secrets from Big Corp and bringing it down to the middle market. What to do and what not to do. And please do not repeat, because there are cycles that we need to break. And that's one of my other passions, is to breaking of some of these cycles that has been enrooted in our workforce.
yeah.
And has been very impactful in a very negative way that affects all of us. So if there's any way I can help in a small portion to change something to make things a little bit better, I am honored to do so.
Here's an interesting question about this. So patterns usually apply to somebody that does the same thing over and over in a similar manner. But what happens if during due diligence, you find that the people change the workflows and change the way they do things based on how they woke up that morning, which means there is no consistency in the workflow. Now, you can write the documents, you can create the SOPs, but if they don't, nobody's following them, those are just pieces of paper or whatever documents on the computer. So how do you break that pattern of them not following the rules or the instructions?
We don't got time. We don't have time.
Let's start. Let's touch it.
Well, what I can do is I will ask them why. First of all, I will identify these inconsistencies and try to find out why these inconsistencies exist. And most of the times when there's inconsistencies to a requirement that or a methodology in a business is because either one, it's ineffective, two, it's overwhelming, and three, somebody is always looking for a shortcut to do something faster. So I will look to see where can we find some efficiencies in what they're saying. I will examine all those inconsistencies and see where are we saving time, money, product, etc., and come to a final consensus with everybody involved who does the particular work and say, okay, I notice ABC thing is happening for task number one. Why? And then figure out which one is used for what situations and how we can combine all three the most efficient way so everyone will be satisfied and more willing to follow that particular instruction versus doing something because they feel like doing it this way because it's Monday or because it's Friday and I want to get home fast. That's the short to my long answer.
And I think, and we won't elaborate on it, but sometimes after you understand those and after you identify the best path to a successful workflow or a process, and people still don't follow those, then it becomes the stick and the carrot kind of situation. Because
Yep.
you have to encourage or penalize people for doing or not doing the job the way it's supposed to be done. Because there is a reason why a process is created in a certain way. Now, if there is a process and you have a suggestion or a better way to execute it, I personally all for it. I look for people with creative mind that know how to get faster to the result without
Yep.
the cost of quality and quantity and time, financial or time or whatever. But if the process is optimized and you refuse to follow it because you don't like it or it's not, you woke up on the wrong side of the bed today, then it's a different conversation.
And also, if I may add, and it just popped
You
in my
may.
head, the other thing that's also involved is psychological. Fear of if they do it this way, what will happen to my job? So I'm doing it this way to safeguard what I got, safeguard what I have, safeguard my position so I won't get replaced. So also, sometimes I have to be a therapist and get through the fear factor. What is causing these fears? Because sometimes the reaction of people who are doing the things that they do is all because of fear, insecurity about loss of something. So that will be the next question. What are the fears? I won't ask them straight up, what is your fears, but get behind what the insecurity or the fears are. And then take that information that's inconsistent and frame it in such a way that everyone would feel comfortable and no one will feel threatened.
Yeah. I have another question, but we are going to wrap up. So I'll ask the question and then we'll summarize this episode and move from there. So, what's a common it works for us process that completely falls apart the moment somebody tries to scale or sell?
Oh my. It could be the way how, oh, I can't even think of an example fast enough, but it could be the way how customer service process. Oh, we always help them this way to resolve a problem because it's faster. And they apply it to every type of customer, not to a specific type of customer. Or somebody has been with a business for a considerable number of years and they say, oh, I've always done it this way. Why should I change it now? That's that entrapment that they have. That's that fear that I was referring to earlier, the fear of losing their position. Or it's the no one has corrected them, and that's usually the big one. No one has pointed it out as it's an error, it's a risk. If no one says anything, I'm going to keep doing it this way.
A lot of times this is not scalable because if you do it this way, when you have 10 customers or you have 20 customers, you still can, get by and work this way. But if you get to 40, 50, 60 customers, or God forbid, 1,000 customers, you're going to crash and burn. You cannot maintain it because maybe that process, and a perfect example is what I was automating right now for the customer. Onboarding of one customer would take in average 45 minutes. I cut it into 3 minutes, 3 minutes. Is she ready to scale now that she got 42 minutes back in her day? Yeah,
Exactly.
now she can scale. And it's not because the process was broken, it was just manual. And by
Exactly.
automating and systemizing it, now it got cut her processing time by 42 minutes.
Yep.
Insane. Insane.
Yep. 90, 90, 95, 97% less.
Yes, you're good at math. So let's summarize this. Three things that people need to know or think about when we talk about fix it before you price it. Three things that the owner need to know or think about on taking into consideration to fix. This is what they need to fix before they decide or think about selling the business or getting even a pricing for it.
Well, one thing first is to know what is your processes. What process do you have in place? Number one. Number two, does it represent who you are? And I should say part A. Does it represent who you are, what you're doing today? And and if you want to expand, do you believe that it can move into the future? Second of all, business owners need to look at themselves and be honest with themselves. Have you been delegating work that you know that you're not good at to other people? You know that you are not proficient in completing. In the beginning, when we start businesses, we are the be all and end all until we start bringing people in. Have you been releasing some of that work? And third, the other thing to do is what are your focal points? What are your focal points for your business? I know businesses go through transitions. Sometimes you start one way and it changes slightly because you're changing according to what's going on in the marketplace. But sometimes you have to ask yourself, what is your true root of the business? Is that the root, or you just doing anything just to make yourself look versatile? Are you still holding on to the main reason you started your business? Or are you taking on more work than you should to be more of a variety show instead of a specialty in one? Those are the three things to start looking at as a start. And once you get through that, then you can start developing and modifying and fixing your processes, your procedures. And I could be there to help you.
Absolutely, you can. And this is the end of our first episode. of fix it before you price it. Judy, thank you so much. You're fantastic as always. And I'll meet you on the next episode,
Look
which
forward to talking with everybody.
the
Bye for
topic is a
now.
secret.
Yes. Bye for
Bye.
now.